Good morning. You have your mute on.
Morning, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Terrific.
I like your virtual background.
Oh, thank you.
I haven't quite figured that out yet. I've played around with it and it's always digitalized and strange.
Oh, well, they've got it on, what is it? Yeah, you go into settings or whatever and background and try and get it from there.
Yeah, I think I need to update my computer or something.
Oh.
That could be a problem. Yeah.
Oh,
Well, hopefully we
good.
have a good turnout, and I'm going to be recording this also so we can share it later.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Happy to address anything that is out there. So,
That's awesome. Morning, Jessica.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, Jessica. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
How's the
We
weather
met
by
with
you,
some-
Jessica?
The weather is beautiful here, actually. How about you guys?
It's been good, but it's cloudy today, although it will be, I think, 80s later on in the
Oh,
week.
nice. That's amazing.
I know.
I met with somebody you know, Jessica, and I can't think of his last name. His first name is Ron. He's been active he's done a study with Harvard on down payment assistance programs and the scattered nature of them in states and how they don't get to people. And we're talking to them and trying to figure out if there's a way for Minnesota to maybe do a similar study to find out where our dollars are and whether or not we can access them. So, but I can't think of his last name. Turin or
It's
something.
not ringing a bell off the top of my head, but that doesn't mean anything, honestly.
No, he knew who you were. He had asked
Okay.
if you were still with the Realtors, and I said, yep, still doing great programs on demographics and stuff.
Oh, thank you.
The most interesting stuff. David, you're on mute.
Chris, you got a way better background than I do.
That's what I said.
There you go.
Is this your home background or is
Yeah, I painted my whole home and
Yeah.
Realtor blue and logos. I just thought it was easier that way.
like you kind of bleed the cause, Chris, right?
There you go. That's what mark-on people do to you. They get you all jazzed up like this.
Here, this is as good as it gets for me. I think Arbit's got the better ones. He's got like all kinds of these things.
Oh, my virtual background?
Yeah.
Yeah, I may have too much fun with those.
Fine.
You got to get your laughs where you can these days.
There you
That's
go.
true.
Good. This is as good as it gets for me. Sorry.
This is the highlight of David's month.
I gotta get more sophisticated here. Yeah, it is.
Mine too, to be fair.
Well, these days, every day feels like a month. So what the heck?
It does.
Seriously.
It really does.
I thought I set this to automatically admit people in, but I got to click on each one here. So
Oh, really? Ouch.
that's why
That's fun.
it's taken a little bit. I did admit all, so we'll give it like a couple minutes just to make sure, some people that want to join are in.
You mean people really want to join us, huh?
Yeah. So that's a hot time to chat.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Mark.
I'm
How
Mark.
are you doing today?
Good.
Good.
Chris, you had an interesting morning, I understand.
What's that?
You had an interesting morning today.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Yeah, I saw the picture on Facebook, darn it.
Oh, That was yesterday morning.
Oh, was that
was
yesterday?
morning. Yeah.
Okay.
Before I worked for builders, I used to work for the Hospitality Association. Wow. That's, I just feel for those guys.
Oh, they're having a heck of a time.
You know, you can be open whatever on the patio. I mean, it's just,
Right.
and I think I had talked to a number of those folks. They thought the governor was going to be a little more generous. They were thinking they were going to get maybe, 25% occupancy to 50% occupancy if they put barriers between tables, and they were prepping to do all kinds of stuff. And boy, they got kind of a little blindsided by this, and it hurts. I just feel for those guys.
Yep. Well, we'll see how the churches go this weekend. See if Ellison decides to shut them down.
Yeah. Which was it, the Catholic Church that said that they're not going to abide by this thing?
Right.
That right?
They did, and I think the Lutherans came out too. So I think both of them have come out saying that they're not going to abide by it. They're going to do 30% occupancy, and they'll keep the 6 feet, but they're opening.
And are people are they gonna sing?
If you're near me, it won't be happening. I might hum a little.
That's what my wife said. Can we hum?
Go to the liquor store.
Yeah.
Maybe we should get started.
Okay.
So I'm also going live on our Facebook page with this. And so I don't know if your guys' view changed of the screen, but mine did. And I don't really want to touch anything so that it doesn't go back to where we were. So maybe we could just get started with Jessica. And so for those of you that don't know Jessica, she's the Vice President of Demographics and Behavioral Insights at the National Association of Realtors. And the core of her research focuses on analyzing trends for both NAR members and housing consumers. So through management surveys, focus groups, and data analysis, she presents new and innovative ways to showcase results and discusses research findings in major media outlets and international presentations. So thank you, Jessica, for joining us this morning. And the floor is yours. And if anybody has any questions at the end, we can chime in. We'll have like maybe 10 minutes per speaker and then allow a few minutes after for questions. And maybe after you guys are done speaking, you can put your contact info in the chat, maybe your email or whatever in case someone wants to reach out and has more questions.
All right, good morning. Thank you guys so much for having me. I've been to Minnesota before, and your beautiful cities there, and I really enjoyed being there. So it's nice to join you virtually today. So I guess the thing that you may have seen came out a few minutes ago was our existing home sales numbers, and they were down nearly 18%. This is not a surprise. We know that a lot of buyers and sellers are taking a pause in their transaction, and they had taken a pause in their transaction. We've actually been doing a weekly flash survey of our members for the last 10 weeks, and really trying to understand the buyer and seller behavior through our members. In doing that, what we have found is that yes, about half of people were taking a pause in the transaction. So I have to say in the latest iteration of the survey, we're actually seeing that members are seeing that there's an increase in traffic that's happening, especially on the buyer side. People had taken their homes off the market temporarily, but the numbers are indicating that this is a temporary pause. Less than 10% of buyers and sellers are saying that they're permanently stopping that transaction. What we are continuing to see in the data is that home prices are incredibly strong because of the limited inventory that's in the market right now, especially going into this crisis. We had a housing shortage. The housing shortage is really exacerbated with people delisting their homes. And so home prices are continuing to increase at an incredibly rapid pace. We're seeing this especially for the entry-level buyer price point, not necessarily for the higher end, as there's more inventory at that higher end price point. So we are seeing that this is this rapid escalation of prices. The behavior has changed among people who are staying in the market. And this is, I think, really fascinating data. When we look at the buyers who are in the market right now, they apparently have just a fast forward button that's been pushed on them, that if they want to make this transaction go right now, they are seeing significantly fewer homes, and they're seeing many homes actually just virtually before putting a contract on. So when we look at the data, traditionally someone looks at about a dozen homes before they put a contract down. Right now, well, last year they actually reduced to 9 homes because we had such limited housing inventory. Right now, people are looking at 3 homes before they put a contract down. That is very, very significant when we look at this. That really speaks to almost TV shows and just how they move that transaction much faster than it happens typically, realistically, in real life. The other thing that we're seeing is we're asking members, if you worked with a buyer last week who put a contract on a home, how many actually only saw that home virtually? And about a quarter of members are citing that. We don't have an apples to apples comparison, but if we take a non-apples to apples comparison, the closest thing that we have is our profile home buyers and sellers. We do on an annual basis. We asked buyers last year how many actually just saw that home virtually and didn't actually see the home in person. It was 3.5%. So we can just take just this broad comparison of those two numbers and know that something's going on here. These buyers are in a situation, perhaps a divorce situation, a new marriage, where they really do need to make this transaction happen. The other thing that I think is fascinating is all of the changes that sellers are taking in their selling behavior. If they're keeping their home on the market, they're making sure that everyone is staying safe in that transaction, keeping windows and doors open, limiting the number of people who are in the house, making sure that it's not the in-laws and the step-in-laws and so on who are coming into that house, but it's really just the mortgage holders, the people who are going to be purchasing that home, maybe limiting it to 1 person at a time, 2 people at a time, keeping all internal windows, doors, everything open so there's fresh air coming into the house and you really don't have to touch anything. It's just an easy flow into that house situation, as well as wearing protective gear when they're in there. I think it's very, very fascinating. We have seen, and we've been surveying on this in just the last couple of weeks. Are you seeing that the buyers who are active in the market right now, have they changed their actual buying behavior, what they want out of a home? Yes, they have. So 13%, and this is, we're not seeing as many buyers in the market who are active right now. So looking at this change, it's very fast what's happening. The share of people who actually want a home office, who want 2 home offices, who want a yard to grow vegetables and their own food, who also want to exercise in that yard, but also who want to accommodate different people in their home. Number 1 is an aging adult relative who perhaps was in a senior center, active senior care. They now want that person in their home. The other thing that we're seeing is that people are saying that they do expect a baby boom from this. I think that has yet to be seen because we've had a baby bust for 35 years. And we have the lowest birth rates we've seen in 35 years. That being said, it's all financial, so it's going to be yet to be seen if there is a baby boom coming out of this. But we're also seeing a massive clearing of the shelters around the country as people are adopting pets, and that is a driver of homeownership. So I think all of these factors will be very interesting to see over this, if this does drive consumers to go and purchase a home. The one thing that we absolutely are seeing is that people are reevaluating city center high density situations. There was a massive outflow of people from DC, Boston, New York, and not only did they go to the suburban areas outside, but they also, in this pandemic situation, actually went back home. And back home could be in the Midwest. It could be in a different situation like that. And there, in fact, are married couples in their 30s who went back to live with their families right now because they felt it was safer to stay in their family member's home than it is to stay in these high dense situations, especially when everyone's working remotely, if they have the privilege to do that. And so I suspect that many offices are going to go remote, at least for a temporary time period, maybe 50% or 25% capacity within these offices. And if they're allowed to do that, you're going to have a greater amount of people who are looking for farther out suburbs, more rural areas where they can get more bang for their buck, more personal space, and we're already starting to see that in the data. So I think there's going to be a great transition coming out of this, and we're just at the beginning stages of this. So I think that's my 10 minutes, and I'll turn it over to the next person, but I will put my contact information in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We'll just keep flowing through all of our speakers and then maybe hold the questions till the very end if there's time, just because for time purposes. So our next speaker is Chris Galler. And I'm sure many of you know Chris. He has over 30 years experience in the real estate industry and is current Chief Executive Officer for over 18,000 members at Minnesota Realtors. He is tasked with the responsibility of not only operating, but also guiding the direction of activities of the organization as a whole, as well as advising and making recommendations to the officers and board of directors. Chris is impactful on multiple fronts. So we will just let Chris take it away and tell us everything that you want to in 10 minutes.
Sure. Well, let me know when my time is up.
I will.
First, I'll talk about the general marketplace, but I'll leave a lot of that to David. He's got excellent numbers, and he researches that for the Minneapolis Association excellently. Statewide, I can tell you that it's a microcosm of the Twin Cities. So obviously the Twin Cities has a lot of activity that goes on, but we're seeing that across the board. We're seeing it in areas like Mankato and Rochester and Duluth and Brainerd, and of course St. Cloud. It just doesn't happen at the same robustness that happens here. Listings are a problem everywhere. We have generally less than 3 months worth of listings on the marketplace. We want about 4.5. So that's a problem. Statewide, the closing sales this month look very good, which is going to produce some great sales reports and some good news articles, but the pending sales going forward are down about 20% statewide. And there's no way to overcome that. We're going to start to see those stats come out June and July and probably even a little bit into August. Prices, of course, go the opposite way because we don't have any inventory. So prices have been going up all over the state, which is a good sign for some members out there. But we still are going to have some issues moving forward. The key is the low rates have really kept affordability at a good level throughout the state. And if it looks like rates are going to hold, hopefully they do, because that'll help a lot of them. A lot of the folks that got laid off weren't the primary home buyers in Minnesota. So we've had a lot of dual income couples or professional singles that are out purchasing. Their incomes didn't get hurt the same way as somebody that works in a lower level service industry. Those folks have been hurt the hardest. David Siegel was talking earlier about the hospitality, the restaurant business, the hotels. Those businesses got just decimated, and it doesn't look like they've got a quick return coming forward. But a lot of other industries have done pretty well, and a lot of the larger companies that have white-collar workers that could work from home have just kept it up. And so those folks are fairly confident that they're going to keep their jobs and that they're going to be able to purchase homes. And a lot of them have been out, as Jessica mentioned. A lot fewer showings. We think technology is going to continue to have inroads in the industry. We don't think that, going and looky-looing for open houses is going to be a pattern that we see anytime in the near future. People are going to look online. They're going to look online so they can satisfy themselves as to what they want for inventory. And they may start in Minnetonka and the Twin Cities to Woodbury. And most realtors are not going to want to spend that much time showing them all the houses that are available. They can sit down and do it themselves and kind of discount out property as they go and then come to you when they need additional help. I think that's probably the biggest trend that's out there. And I'll last cover open houses. If you're not aware, obviously with the COVID, we've had a lot of changes in the industry. This last week, we met with Commerce and others, and the governor's rule that went into effect on Monday would allow open houses to occur, but not the way we used to do them. There's a 2-page list of considerations that we've sent out. We've posted it online. We've sent it to each of the members that talks about preparing for an open house and making sure that you're doing it appropriately to minimize the chances of the spread of CV-19. Obviously, it doesn't help anybody's business if the pandemic hits or the illness hits some of your people. But the key is really making sure that you've got the pieces in place so that your seller can be comfortable. You've got a lot of baby boomer sellers. Some of them are going to be in their 70s and older. You may have clients that have an autoimmune disease or other issues that may make it more difficult for them. If indeed you're going to get marketing to go on appropriately, you're going to have to address those issues up front and talk with them on how to handle it. And I realize some people say, well, you're saying open up doors, you know, open up cabinet doors and stuff like that. The house doesn't look as good that way. I agree. I'm not discounting that, but we need to be safe first and think of ways that you can talk with your sellers about doing it. Maybe for an open house, you don't have to do it that way. Maybe there's a way you can touch a doorknob yourself with the glove on and open it so that you don't have the disease, and then the people can look and see what's inside. I don't know what you do with an issue that seems to arise every now and then, and I'm sure it's happened to all of you, and that is somebody needs to use the bathroom. Cleaning's up to you at that point, I'm afraid, and that may discourage you from wanting to do open houses, but the fact is that's a reality that you have to deal with. Hands in the pocket are a great trend. I know a lot of people are doing it on showings. Open houses are another great time to do it. Think about the direction and flow within the property so that you take into consideration smaller rooms so you don't get too many people in those spaces. And maybe you have to be kind of a little tour guide. You know, we're going to start and go this way, and then we're going to go that way, and, you know, take a look at these kinds of things. Stairways will be a problem. Having too many people in the house are going to be a problem. But I think that realtors can handle it. I think we're going to see realtors that are very inventive. There's different kinds of properties out there, and for different properties, you're going to have to resolve different kinds of situations. Beyond that, the association's keeping up its COVID page, working hard with the National Association of Realtors to make sure that the programs that are coming down from the federal level are disseminated to you guys. We're trying to put up stuff as often as we can about what's happening within the state. That would impact you. I'm sure the local associations have links to our sites and national site to make sure that you can get the information. The goal of the association at this point is just to get us through the COVID so that you can get back to doing business and take as many hindrances out of the way so that you're able to do business as best you can during these times. That doesn't mean everyone's going to be the same, but at least everyone's going to have an opportunity to make a living, which is the key for real estate. And we've got buyers and sellers that want to do it. So with that, I'll turn it back. I'll answer questions later if they're out there. I'll let David focus on numbers because he's a much better number person than I am. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you so much, Chris. That was wonderful, wonderful information. The next speaker will be David Siegel. So he is Executive Director of Housing First Minnesota. There's over 1,100 members, I believe, with Housing First Minnesota, and it's known for its active engagement in advocacy work, including electoral, legal, lobbying, regulatory, and issue advocacy, as it seeks to advance the American dream of home ownership. So the association is highly recognized for its Parade of Homes, which we all know, and I missed this year because I love going to that. Hopefully it will resume in the future. So David, I'll let you take it away and have at her.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, some of the points have already been covered, but I kind of like to do this as a market pro, a market con, and then some factors to think about. And then I want to talk a little bit about affordability, which is an area that I think is of real concern for our association and should be for all of us. So we've already heard interest rates are low, predicted to stay there. I think inventory is incredibly low. Again, that's been a plus. Unusually so, because we were advocating for more inventory and we frankly need it. And yet it's helping us sort of make our way through this crisis. Millennials do want to own and they are buying. I think there's been some questions in the past about whether millennials want to live in urban core, whether they want to get rid of their cars, whether they want to ride light rail. And we've already heard that even prior to this, I think that was sort of misinformation. And COVID-19 is really changing buying patterns for some people, I think, substantially. I'm sure David's going to talk a little bit about showings. We are seeing in the models that our builders have, and these are appointment only, up to this point, we're seeing every single weekend an increase in traffic, pretty consistent increase in traffic. We see mortgage applications are increasing, which is great. You know this, there's huge pent-up demand in the lower price points and still multiple offers. That's still going on. And, you know, home prices, as we've heard, are remaining strong. I just was on a session yesterday, and I think something like 73% of builders have not yet implemented any sort of discount. So we're still seeing prices stay relatively strong. Melanie, the parade is coming back. When we paused it, obviously in April, you know, sort of in March, pending the discussions with the governor and sort of trying to figure out what the world was going to bring for us. And we've pivoted to a virtual tour, which was last weekend and this weekend. And amazingly enough, we're seeing huge increases in our website traffic over the last 2 weekends with the virtual tour. Which is great news. About 400 homes in the parade, over about 300 of them put up virtual. I'm amazed at how rapidly our industry has shifted to virtual product. And that could be, you know, that Matterport 360, that could be a video you did on your iPhone, that could be a Facebook walkthrough that you recorded. But about 300 of the homes have virtual tours now. And then we modified the parade site to allow for a little bit better access to the builder to create appointments to go see those houses on a one-off basis. And then when the governor came out with his ruling about 50% of retail, we felt like we could then do the parade with limits on numbers in the home. So we're going to restart visits to homes, not this weekend, which is the holiday weekend, but the next weekend. And all the builders will have no more than 10 people in a home. You know, we're recommending masking. We're giving every builder a sign that they're going to put outside. There's all kinds of stuff I could share with you later on. I don't want to go through all that, but just let you know that it's back for 3 weeks in the subsequent weekend to this one, and then two additional weeks. So Parade of Homes is seeing actually pretty significant virtual traffic. And then I think we're going to see consumers want to get back out. I'm kind of excited about that. We already heard demand for suburban, demand for exurban is really high. And 80%, I just saw an article today, 80% of those who have a job, as Chris mentioned, feel pretty good about it. And so we are seeing pretty substantial, I'd have to say surprising demand in the marketplace. You know, cons, unemployment is high. And it's too high, and it's going to continue. We're not done. If it starts to get into the higher levels of these corporations, we're going to have a challenge. Virus is going to be with us for a while, creates uncertainty. Big issue for us is regulatory impact and the inability to build an affordable product. And I'll get to that in a minute. We do have the highest disparity in home ownership between whites and non-whites in the country, and that's a problem. That's only going to be exacerbated, I think, by COVID-19. We weren't even back to pre-recession levels when this thing hit. So that inventory challenge is very, very real. We're starting to see a lot of growth in the single family built for rent market, which we see is to an extent a challenge for us, because obviously we're in the business of building and selling, and you guys and realtors are also in that business, title companies as well. So that's something to keep your eye on. Tighter lending standards are a bit of a challenge, I think. And there are some mortgage delinquencies on the rise. So there's some pros and there's some cons that we're all kind of dealing with. But I think possible trends, and we've heard several of them already, work from home means distance to the office matters less. So gas prices stay low, preliminary sign of buyers moving out. And I think we heard that. Work from home needs, I need an office. I'm tired of officing out of my master closet. And I want some different space. Maybe that renter by choice is ready to move now. You know, I want my family closer. Do I go multi-gen? Will the open floor plan give way to, you know, more contained areas? And, you know, gardens and chicken coops, the strength of home as a haven has sort of never been greater. I'll just kind of close by talking just for a minute about this affordability problem, which remains despite COVID-19. And we've done some research as an association. Why does it cost so much to build in this marketplace as opposed to other markets in the country? I have a national builder, several national builders who can build the identical house And they can build it in Hudson, or they can build it in Indianapolis, or they can build it in Nashville, or they can build it in Columbus for anywhere from $100,000 to $150,000 less. Hudson about $50,000 less. Same product, exact same floor plan, exact same material suppliers. Yeah, labor might be slightly different market to market, but not much. And the real reason that happens in Minnesota is because we have just an onerous regulatory burden that makes it very difficult to build an affordable product. And that's what the market wants today. So I think for all of us to just get familiar with some of these regulatory challenges, I'll give you 4 examples and then close up. In Wisconsin, water is managed by one agency, the Department of Natural Resources. In Minnesota, when you build out a development, water is managed by 5 agencies. You've got the Board of Water and Soil. You've probably got your watershed. You probably got the Pollution Control Agency. You probably got the DNR. You might have the Army Corps of Engineers. That might be 5 different engineering studies that have to be done to bring 100 homes to the marketplace. Every one of those engineering studies is expensive, and every one of those adds to the per unit cost on that development. Another example are things like tree replacement ordinances. Roseville had a tree replacement ordinance, just had a development go in Roseville. They had to take down some trees in order to put the development in, and then replace those trees with additional. In other words, you got to plant 4 for every one you take out. For that development, it was $10,000 per unit in order to do the tree replacement. And thankfully, Roseville waived that and made some modifications to their policy. But that's $10,000 a house when you're trying to build an affordable product. Similar situation, Lakeville had a requirement for storm shelters. If you were going to build a slab on grade house, you had to build a storm shelter. Well, those are roughly $10,000 a unit. That sort of defeats the purpose of a slab on grade product that's trying to hit an affordability mark. Thankfully, we were able to push that back and said it exceeds the state building code, and the state building officials agreed with us. And so no longer do you need that storm shelter. And then these, what we call country club zoning issues, which are things like minimum lot sizes, 3-car garages, exterior finishes. Maple Grove just instituted a moratorium last week on multifamily development in Maple Grove. And actually in the city minutes, they put that the reason for the moratorium is they want to investigate the link between multifamily and crime. And that's pretty ugly stuff. You don't normally see it that vocally mentioned in city minutes. And so, zoning can be used as a very exclusionary tactic. And we see a lot of that. And that's going to have to get addressed here. We're all going to have to sort of buck up and dive into this and get back to an affordable. We can build a great affordable product in this market if we strip away some of those regulatory burdens and just let the builders do the good work that they do. We get HERS indexes in Minnesota. We test probably 6,000 homes a year, something close to that. We have the lowest HERS index, the most energy efficient home built in the country of any state that tests multiple houses. So we build a great energy efficient home here. We've got tremendous builders, and we just got to let them do what they do really effectively, because coming out of this, affordability is going to be even a bigger issue than it was going in. So thanks for the opportunity. Melanie, back to you.
Thank you so much, David. That was great information. It always blows my mind how much more the exact same house costs here to build. Wow.
Yeah, it's all the way from land development all the way up to regulatory impact by codes, and we're going to have to address it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all that information. And lastly, we have David Arbit. So David is the Director of Research at Minneapolis Area Realtors. I'm sure some of you guys see his updates that he does every Thursday. I know I watch them. That's always exciting. He holds a Master in Housing and Economic Development from the Hubert H. Humphrey Institute and has over 13 years of housing research experience. So David, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Melanie, and thanks to Minnesota Title and my fellow excellent panelists. A lot of my stuff is visual, so I'm going to try to share my screen. Let's see if I can do that. Let's start with that guy. Okay. So as I'm getting dialed in here, Yeah, I think a couple people alluded to some of our numbers. We pride ourselves on a lot of our showings data, a lot of our pending sales, the way we track pendings on a weekly, even daily basis. I know a lot of people are pretty excited and grateful for that, as excited as we are even. So brace yourself, everyone. Data analysis is coming. So this is our daily showing, sort of daily showing count, if you will. This one shows just kind of a rolling average, a rolling weekly average for daily showings. You know what? Let me even try to get a laser. There we go. There we go. Now we're talking. So daily showings, this is North Star wide. Every point on here represents a week of activity. So it's sort of this rolling weekly count. It's pretty plain to see what happened. We came down pretty sharply, and then we rose pretty sharply as well. Easter, Passover things, cold weekends, and Mother's Day type events can change things a little bit. But you guys will notice that showings activity is at a new all-time high for this year so far. So we have eclipsed that peak, which is obviously a good thing. Showings are a really good leading indicator, as I know almost all of you know. Showings are just a tremendous leading indicator for demand, for offers, for pending sales, and eventually for closed sales. So I kind of get a kick out of this one, just because we can kind of track in the data how different events have impacted the market. So look at this first positive test in Minnesota. That sure kind of put a cap on things, didn't it? And then we had the peacetime state of emergency declared. I think that was Executive Order 2020 or 4040 or something. And then you can see what happened after the closure of the K-12 schools. That seems to be the thing that sort of kicked off this slide. We saw a little bit of stabilization happen before we had that full-on kind of shelter-in-place order, and then we kind of had to find that natural bottom. And I think we have for now. So you guys can see also just the kind of pace of these gains and how we are relative to where we were. Okay, I spend too much time on that because I get excited about charts, but I got to keep moving. So I want to take you guys through some historical numbers here. Well, historical, 6 weeks ago, which does feel like ancient history in some ways. So this is for the week ended, that last week of March versus the week prior. So notice, guys, look at this change in showing activity, down pretty notably across the board. Much more significantly in our luxury brackets than most of our other brackets. Okay, so fast forward a week. Here you can see, instead of everything being up, we've got some up, some down, some up, some down, a couple up, so not a clear picture. This was sort of a transitional week. But check this one out. For that week ended 4/19, this is where we really see these gains sort of come back. These are stronger gains than we can normally expect. 50% to almost 100%. Pretty significant numbers there, which is why I'll go to the week ended May 3rd, where we see kind of more normal numbers. I'd even go to the week ended 5/10. Again, 8, 12, maybe even some 20%. Okay, we can live with that. But again, for this most recent week, here we are kind of 10 to 20%, some down 3, some up only 7. So kind of more normal numbers here. All right, this next one has got to be one of my favorites. And let me explain to you guys why we love data and why we kind of do what we do. So we kind of already saw this, right? Everything was down early on. Then we went into a transitional week or two where some segments were up, some segments were down. Fast forward to the next week where everything was up pretty dramatically. That was that week that ended 4/19. And then most recently for the week ended May 17th, we have more normal, historically consistent, sustainable gains, if you will. Mm-hmm. So week ended 5/17 versus 5/10, just so you guys can kind of see the growth in showing activity by week. We kind of see gains in 2 of our more affordable segments, but a little bit of a pullback in that 200 up to 250 range. And then we actually see gains all the way up to our luxury segments. So that was the number. What about the share? People ask about this. And so I decided to throw one of these in there as a wild card there. So overall showing activity, what this is telling us is almost 1 in 4 showings in our market is on homes under 200,000. A little more than 1 in 5 showings is on homes, priced between 250 and 300, a 265, 275, 299.5. You see a lot of those. And then a little over 1 in 100 showings were on homes that were at or above $1 million. So, in talking with some of our industry partners, some builders, and David Siegel's group just does a tremendous job over there. But we've heard some folks say that even though showing traffic is down, it seems to be a higher quality traffic and a more motivated buyer. So I think Chris Galler also alluded to maybe some of the looky-loons and the fringe buyers have sort of dropped off and moved on, leaving, qualified, motivated buyers. So I think that's a pretty interesting dynamic. And maybe people didn't expect that. So new listings, this is just our raw weekly count. So instead of that rolling weekly average, this is just kind of our raw weekly data. So you guys can see again, sellers pulled back kind of into mid-March. They seem to have hit that bottom, say maybe mid-April, almost exactly a month later. And we have seen some nice gains since then. We are not above where we were. And don't forget to look at 2019 levels. So those year ago levels in gray, just keep in mind the weather last year was pretty weird. We had a lot of snow and then a fast melt last spring, which I know kept some of David's builders, maybe slowing down a little bit just because of weather. This year has been much better. Of course, if the world didn't change as it did in March for us. So over to the pending sales side, and I'm getting through most of mine here. Look at current activity in blue versus the 2019 activity in gray. So this one is a really interesting one. I think someone already mentioned that buyers seem to be coming back faster than sellers. Our data definitely confirms that. So buyers pull back. Pi Day 3.14 right there on March 14th. Pi Day looks like they hit bottom 418. Again, almost exactly, precisely a month later. And if you kind of squint a little bit and turn your head, you guys will notice that this dot is higher than that dot. In other words, the number of pending sales, the number of signed purchase agreements in our market in the Twin Cities Metro is at an all-time weekly high for the year. I'm not sure how many people are aware of that. It just happened, about 10 days ago. So I think that's an encouraging sign. All right, my last couple here. Lord knows I could go on for hours with some of this. Let's just look at daily new listings for 2020 here in black. But I want to contextualize that or benchmark 2020 with the prior 3 years. So 2017, 18, and 19, sort of benchmarking 2020. So look earlier in the year, right? We were having a pretty decent year, a pretty decent spring for sellers, right? For new listings. Actually, before everything changed kind of mid-March, we saw sellers were, kind of flirting or leapfrogging with this 2017 trend line well ahead of 18 and 19 levels. Again, look at 19 being held back a little bit by weather, but it did get back on track, as you can see. I think an interesting dynamic here, once we saw that mid-April, again, that April 14th to 16th date was sort of a bottom for us, at least so far. We did see a nice recovery on the seller side. Things have slowed down a little bit since then. We're still above those lows. We would like to see some gains, not just as an indication that things are getting better, things are getting kind of back together and a little, we're seeing improvement, but also because we have an inventory crisis and buyers need more options. So it looks like we're on an uptrend, but I'll leave a question mark there. This one is much more sort of reassuring on the buyer side, the pending sales side. We were looking really strong in terms of contracts this spring. Here's when everything changed, mid-March. You guys can see that point right there. Things deteriorated a little bit on the contract side. But here again, April 14th, 15th, we started to recover. And again, we are above those previous highs for the year. And if you actually look, we're starting to close this gap between past years. It'll be really interesting to see if the pent-up demand will be able to close that gap, and if sellers can come on fast enough to close that gap as well. Okay, a few more. I get excited about these charts, so forgive me. All right, so March 2020, I just want to show you guys before we pivot to April, look at new listings in March. Where did we see the bulk of our gains? Sort of in these middle market ranges, right? 250 up to 500, maybe 200 up to 5 or 550 or so. Some declines in our luxury segment, some declines in our affordable segment. All right, let's shift over to the pending sales side. Again, for March, we see our gains again in these middle market ranges. We almost see a little bit of a normal distribution there. It's not too spooky, so it's not a paranormal distribution, so just be careful. Okay, as we pivot into April, I want to give a warning. Some viewer discretion is advised here. So here are April numbers for new listings broken down by price point. You guys can see we had our biggest pullback in our extreme affordable end. We had our second biggest pullback on our extreme luxury end, which I think is pretty interesting. $400,000 homes, $375,000 homes, $450,000. Seller activity was only down about 7%. So that's not a big decline for what I would call one of our bread and butter segments. Our median is somewhere in this range. We're at about 300,000. So our median's in this range. You guys can see this also, I got to catch myself. It didn't perform the second best. It performed the second least worst or something like that. We're all learning new phrases here. So mid-market ranges, that's where we see the strength. You guys can also see the bulk of our activity is in those mid-market ranges. Some of the extreme movements we'll see 45%. Remember, that's from 140 down to about 80. So it's not a big number, but it appears to be a big change. Pending sales for April here again, we do see some of our declines as we're sort of getting into the luxury segments. We actually see our bigger declines in our affordable segments of the market for April. I believe that has something to do with the disparate impact from the layoffs. A lot of the layoffs hit folks with high school degrees and less, hit folks working retail, leisure, hospitality, bar, restaurant. Those folks who were prospective buyers may have changed their plans a little bit. I don't think they've dropped out, but that could be the pent-up demand that'll come back later this year as finances stabilize, as the market stabilize, as some furloughed workers come back, or some folks who were laid off come back into the labor market, and so on. Let me say again, I'll just beat this dead horse a little bit more. Our bread and butter mid-market ranges are still performing not too poorly. Again, these are the segments where you've got your salaried professionals, as Jessica Lautz was mentioning. You've got your salaried professionals who are able to work from home, kind of helping these segments along. Move-up buyers, some first-time buyers who can be at 300 to 350, or the move-up buyer who's looking at a 4 to 450. You see those segments performing not all that bad. Again, just sort of looking at the numbers really quickly, you guys can see where the volume is. All right, second to last one, and then I'm done. Only because this was mentioned, I do want to bring up this study. Have your clients change their neighborhood preferences due to COVID? So 94% of agents have actually said no, that no criteria has changed and that our search criteria is the same. But 5% have said that they've noticed a shift away from city centers and downtowns to suburbs. And then another 1% have said that I've actually heard people going from the suburbs into the city. So, I think someone mentioned we do see a little bit more of a flight away, but 95% saying no change. I guess I wouldn't say it's a huge trend yet, although clearly concerns around shared spaces and common spaces and higher density rental buildings and condo buildings, obviously that's a concern. That's a health concern for many. So with that, I will say thank you and remind you to wash your hands.
Thank you so much, David. That was such great information. I'm a visual person too, so just looking at everything while you explain it and give your insight on it makes sense. You must be over the moon with charts with all the craziness going on.
Oh, you have no idea.
Funny. Okay, so right now we can open it up to questions. If anybody does have a question, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask it, or type it in the chat box, either way. Maybe I'll chime in. Okay, I'll have a question for Chris. So with everything going on, Chris, what's the one thing you would suggest for realtors to do differently today for something like this that happens in the future? If this ever comes again, what's the one thing that they can change about the way they do business, or something they can open up their minds to doing so that their business functions more properly and is more prepared if this comes again?
Well, I think the idea of this coming again is pretty much forlorn right now. It looks like we'll have a second wave. There may even be a third wave at some time. It's just a matter of how large the wave gets and how many people are infected by it. I think a key is going to be that you have conversations with clients that things may happen during the course of our listing or during the time that I work with you as a buyer that we're not prepared for. And this would be a great example. 9/11 would be a great example. Even the Great Recessions, to a large degree, caught a lot of people off guard. So I think it's important that you have that conversation ahead and say that we'll be able to work with you through this. It may mean that we do business different than we have before, and I'm going to need a little of your patience to get through that, but we will get through it. It's not anything that we haven't dealt, it may be something we haven't dealt with, but overcoming obstacles is what we do as a profession. So I think that's important. I think the different kinds of cameras and videos that are out there right now for taking the insides of houses is going to be a normal way of business moving forward. We've seen realtors in the marketplace using more and more technology. I don't think that'll stop. I think that'll become a large part of what everybody's going to do. And I think consumers are going to expect that you do that. Not only sellers, but buyers are going to expect that they're going to be able to see every aspect of the house moving forward. And I think there's technology we haven't even seen yet that's going to be in the marketplace that buyers are going to be using to look at a property and say, this might be what it looks like today, but this is what it'll look like in the future if I go in there. And here's even some estimated costs for that kind of work.
Melanie, I'd chime in on that. You know, we didn't used to offer floor plans, for example, on the Parade of Homes website because our builders would all say that they were afraid somebody else was going to steal their floor plan. And that's all out the window now. So in this newly reiterated Parade, virtual and going into the actual visiting of models, we've now put up their floor plans, and I'm amazed at how many builders are. So I think we were already on this trend ahead, you know, to where Chris is going. We were already headed in this direction, but the buyer wants as much information as they can possibly get about that product before they ever set foot. I've actually had several builders tell me they've sold some models sight unseen, and I think I've seen some data that, you know, was that 20 some percent, Jessica, that you were saying maybe. That's just shocking, and so I do think. I did an interview with Mike Augustinek from CCO yesterday about the parade, and he said, well, are these virtual elements going to be, is this just a one-time deal for this parade, or is this going to be an ongoing situation? Of course, it's going to be, for now into the future, this is all going to continue. So, boy, adaptation and adopting sort of the new technology is going to be a huge, I think, area of focus for realtors and builders in the future.
I agree with that. I was talking to a builder the other day, and somebody wanted to have a floor plan with 2 home offices on opposite ends of the house. I think, especially now with the homeschooling and things going on, you got to have that door shut. You have to have a space that's dedicated to that. And if this continues, you know, that's a good thing to look for. I do see some questions in the chat. I don't know if one of you guys wants to take this one, but it looks like Karen Kimball's asking, you know, she's thinking of becoming a full-time agent. Any advice on how to approach the transition in this pandemic market, because she was a part-time agent?
I'll try and take a dive into this one. You know, I think that the world is changing, and that if you're ready to adapt, if you're ready to take on the technology and look at new ways to do business, I think there's a real future for agents like that who are ready to be their own entrepreneur and dive in. The one thing that I'll say, and that we're seeing in the data that we're getting back, and what I'm hearing anecdotally from agents, is that people really miss the relationships that they have outside of their computer, but they really want a very involved agent, someone who's very high touch right now. Yes, you can see a home online. Yes, you can put an offer online, but you want your agent to be with you in every part of that transaction. And there's a lot of buyers right now who are in a situation where maybe they're going through a divorce and they cannot live in their home right now. But as long as you can stay neutral in that and really be with that buyer through that transaction, I think you really do have a future. So that's kind of part therapist, part agent, all rolled into one, which is the many hats that realtors always play anyway.
I think that's a really good point. And I think it is all about the realtor and you guiding them and really advising them and helping them through this, because the market is what you want it to be in your mind. And I think as there's some agents that kind of have fizzled away, it's kind of left like last man standing type thing. And the ones that really take their job seriously and care about their clients have gotten through this just fine. Is there other questions? Here's a question someone had. Do you think some of the affordable listings are down because not many condos have been available? Associations not wanting people into the building. Is that a possibility?
I'll take a stab at that one. I think it's definitely a possibility. You know, agents have been really smart about being careful and, you know, using CDC guidelines and everything around that stuff. But I do think, well, I know condo sales and contracts took the biggest hit of any property type in April. I think for pretty obvious reasons. I'm not ready to say the condo is dead and downtown living is dead, but I do think it's experiencing something of a setback. You know, it's an interesting thing. Condos did used to be much more affordable than pretty much any other property type, but that has changed as so many of them are new construction, so many are luxury, so many of them are in the downtown mill district, kind of a fairly, you know, luxury oriented market down there. So, you know, you used to be able to get a new condo for under 200,000. I think the median price for a new condo is maybe 3 or 350 or more, maybe even 5. I'd have to look again. So, you know, I think that statement would be more true 5 or 10 years ago than it is today. But yes, I think some of that activity has been held back, and that is moving the needle on buyer activity, seller activity, and prices. So I think it's a good point.
I might add that one of our builders is Pulte, and they have a product, a Dell Web product out in, I think it's maybe Maple Grove. And I do know that that development has been hit hard in, you know, with COVID-19. If you think about who that buyer is, it's a 55 plus buyer. They're looking at their stock portfolio. It's probably challenged. They're maybe a little bit less reluctant. They're more reluctant to go out and actually look at things because they're in that risk factor, and they probably don't have to move. So I think that market segment maybe is facing some challenges that, you know, I think as they get more comfortable and as we all get more comfortable with living with this virus and figuring this thing out, I have a sense that certainly hope that changes. But I do know that that's been a struggle for those folks. That development was exploding. You know, one of the saddest parts about this whole thing is we were having the best spring that we'd had in probably a decade, and so this hurts. And I know they were doing extremely well and are struggling a little bit now. So I think that buyer segment maybe is part of that equation too.
I think that's true too. And also thinking back on the condos, when I think of the people that would want to live in downtown and like the thrive and the hype, and it's like, it just doesn't feel that way currently. And also with so many buildings having all those amenities, gyms, pools, and the shops underneath and the restaurant, if that's not there, and that's a huge selling factor, I can imagine, for these condos, like that's kind of what you're paying for also, and right, you're not getting half of that. So that's got to be tough.
I think the other interesting thing for us all to think about, I know we're in the residential real estate space, but for those that are in the commercial real estate space, boy, I wonder what the world will look like, you know, as more people maybe do permanently work from home, our offices going to, you know, I'm just fascinated watching all of that. And I don't study that. I mean, I dabble in it a little bit, but it's just interesting. I was on with a conference call with the Building Owners and Managers Association, and boy, they're not seeing their tenants bringing back their employees anytime soon in all of these multi-tenant buildings. So I don't have a lot of information about it. I just think it's an interesting area for us all to watch.
I agree with David on that, but I think one of the things is we have to remember the office as we know it continues to evolve anyhow. So I think a lot of things that would have occurred over a period of time are just going to happen faster. And whether you worked away or not, having to drive 45 or 50 minutes each way to get to work and sit in traffic for a 15-mile drive, that was already causing stress. And so I think what it's allowed managers and owners of businesses to recognize is there is work people can do at home, and they will do it at home, but there's still a synergy that's going to be needed in some offices that we can't eliminate either. And it's kind of like real estate companies who, they change the way they do office meetings, but a lot of people are missing that connectedness to their other agents and have formed teams and other kinds of things. At the end of the day, people are pretty social animals, and realtors are really social animals compared to the general population. So I think we'll see changes in the way business is done, but I think there'll still be needs for offices. But go ahead, it'll be interesting.
Any other questions? You can just unmute yourself and chime in if you have one.
I just want to take a second and thank everybody on the panel. I appreciate it. When I reached out to you and asked if you would join us and be a part of this, I was very excited when you all said yes. So from me and Melanie and Ashley and everybody else who joined us, thank you very much for your time. It was, we know everyone's busy, but we sure do appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much. This was an excellent panel of people to have.
I don't think we have any more questions there.
Okay, so I think we can safely sign off before this silence gets any more awkward.
Thanks, you, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody. And don't forget to reach out to people on their emails if you have any questions. And I'm going to be sharing this also on our YouTube channel, so anyone can go back and watch it if they missed something. Okay, thank you. Have a good day, everybody.